You left the house this morning, and somewhere between the front door and wherever you were going, you became suddenly, painfully aware of yourself. Maybe it was something small, a stain on your shirt you hadn't noticed until you were already outside, a stumble on a curb, a laugh that came out too loud in a quiet room. And for the rest of the hour, maybe the rest of the day, some part of you was convinced that every person who passed you had seen it too, had noticed, had filed it away somewhere. That feeling has a name. It is called the spotlight effect, and it is one of the most quietly exhausting things that human beings do to themselves. The spotlight effect is the tendency to believe that other people are paying far more attention to us than they actually are. Not in a grandiose way, not the belief that we are famous or special, more like the low-grade constant hum of feeling watched, feeling evaluated, feeling that the small, embarrassing, imperfect details of our existence are visible to everyone around us and are being judged in real time. Researchers who have studied this pattern, including work done at Cornell University by Thomas Gilovich and colleagues, have found that people consistently overestimate how much others notice things about them. In one of the classic studies, people who wore an embarrassing t-shirt into a room were certain that most of the other people in the room had noticed and remembered it. In reality, far fewer had. The person wearing the shirt had it at the center of their world. Everyone else was somewhere in the middle of their own. And that is really the heart of it. We are each the main character of our own experience. Everything we do, every small misstep, every awkward moment, every detail we wish we could change, sits at the absolute center of our own attention. So it becomes almost impossible to believe that other people are not also looking at that same center. It feels so loud inside us that we assume it must be loud outside us too. This is partly a feature of how human attention works. We have something called the egocentric bias, which is a well-documented tendency to use our own perspective as the default anchor when we are trying to imagine how the world looks to others. It takes real effort to step fully outside ourselves and genuinely model another person's experience. Most of the time we don't do that. We start from where we are and we project outward. And what we project is usually ourselves. There is also something deeper running underneath this. For many people, the spotlight effect is connected to a sensitivity that developed early. When children grow up in environments where they are closely watched, where their behavior is frequently commented on, corrected, or used as a measure of someone else's mood, they learn to monitor themselves. They develop a kind of internal observer, a part of the mind that is always scanning, always checking how things look, always bracing for feedback. That internal observer does not simply switch off in adulthood. It follows people into grocery stores and job interviews and first dates and quiet Tuesday mornings. So the spotlight effect is not a flaw in the person. It is often the echo of an old adaptation, a nervous system that learned quite reasonably to stay alert. Here is what it feels like from the inside, and you may recognize some version of this. You say something in a meeting, and the words land slightly wrong. Not terribly, not catastrophically, just a little off. And while the meeting continues around you, you are no longer in it. You are in a loop, replaying the moment, editing it, imagining what each person in the room thought of it. You tell yourself you are overthinking, which does not help, because now you are also watching yourself overthink. Someone glances at you in a public place, and for a moment you wonder what they saw. You post something online and spend the next few hours reading invisible meanings into the silence. You trip on something, and your first instinct is not to check if you are hurt, it is to check who saw. And the thing that makes this particularly tender is that people going through this often feel alone in it. They look around at everyone else, and everyone else seems so comfortable, so unbothered, so unaware of being watched. But that unbothered quality is largely performance and partly their own distraction with their own internal spotlight. Almost everyone has this to some degree. The person who seems most relaxed in a room has almost certainly spent time in their own version of that loop. The spotlight is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you care about how you show up, about other people's experiences, about being someone worthy of respect and warmth. Those are not bad things to care about. They only become heavy when the caring turns inward and becomes surveillance.
There is a shift that can come not through force, not through telling yourself to stop caring, but through something quieter. It comes from genuinely internalizing slowly over time that other people are mostly busy with their own spotlight. The person at the next table is not analyzing your posture. They are wondering if they said something strange to a coworker last week. The stranger who looked at you for a second longer than felt comfortable was probably just briefly unfocused. The room that went quiet when you walked in was already in the middle of its own moment before you arrived. One small thing that can help is simply to notice. The next time you are convinced that everyone saw, that everyone is watching, that everyone is still thinking about it, to pause and ask honestly, what am I actually looking at in the people around me right now? And the answer, almost always, is not them. You are looking at your own thoughts about them. You are looking at the screen inside your head, not at their faces. That is not a cure, but it is a small opening, a moment of distance between the feeling and the fact. It is also worth saying, gently and plainly, that if this kind of self-consciousness runs very deep, if it is keeping you from things that matter to you, from connection, from opportunities, from ease in daily life, that is worth exploring with someone trained to help. What is shared here is general reflection, not a substitute for professional support, but for the ordinary, everyday version of the spotlight effect, the stumble on the curb, the laugh that came out wrong, the email you wish you had worded differently. There is something quietly freeing in remembering that the audience you are performing for is mostly imaginary. Not because no one cares about you. People do care about you. But because they are not watching the outtakes, they are not keeping a running record of your worst moments. They are somewhere in the middle of their own story, with their own spotlight, doing their own quiet version of this exact thing. You are not on trial. You are just alive, which is already a complicated enough thing to be. The spotlight feels so real because it shines from inside you, but that also means you are the one holding it. And sometimes, just sometimes, you can point it somewhere else. If something here felt familiar, there is a free reflection worksheet in the description below. A few quiet questions to sit with at your own pace. And if this kind of conversation is what you come here for, subscribing means you will find it waiting for you next time. Take good care of yourself tonight.